Hello and welcome to Cleveland Classic Cinema. Tonight's movie is 1961's The Phantom Planet, directed by William Marshall. There are certain themes that are used a lot by science fiction films. The gigantic monster awoken or mutated by nuclear testing, the nuclear apocalypse, the aftermath of the nuclear apocalypse, the post-nuclear apocalyptic society. Are you sensing a theme here? The invasion from another planet near apocalypse, the threat from space, be it an asteroid or something similar. I think that covers the end of the world scenarios. The threat from another world or planet that never gets near our beloved home but nearly takes over the minds and bodies of astronauts, and, since I'm getting tired of running these down, the one tonight's movie deals with. The discovery of a previously hidden or lost society on a planet previously thought to be barren. This movie, however, does something rather unique with it. Unfortunately, that's the only good thing I can say about it. It's slow, it's dull, it's talky, there's very little action, the acting is petrified, the dialogue is coma-inducing, and the special effects are terrible. In short, it's not much worse than the other films we show in this program. The Phantom Planet takes place in the far-off year of 1980. We have already colonized the moon, and there's quite a bit of space traffic going hither and yon. Where they're going isn't exactly clear, since none of the other planets have been explored yet, but the movie opens with one of the spaceships flitting around, crashing into an asteroid that just appears in front of them. This is the second crash in as many days. There are days in space? And the moon base commander, or at least his aide, is determined to get to the bottom of this conundrum. He sends Captain Frank Chapman and his co-pilot Ray McConan out to investigate. They take off, and after discussing the beauty of outer space, Frank says it's quiet. It's almost too quiet, he adds. Seeing as there's no sound in space, this makes a lot of sense. After what seems like forever, they dodge a few asteroids and then both go outside the ship to repair something. Frank has a mishap, and after Ray puts him back in the ship, the latter gets hit by something and floats off into space, saying the Lord's Prayer. When Frank awakes, he's a bit put out at finding himself alone, and then finds his ship caught in some sort of tractor beam that's pulling it towards a small asteroid. The ship lands safely, Frank gets out and then collapses. When he gets up again, he sees some tiny people peering at him from behind the rocks. He collapses again, and the little people peek into his helmet. Figuring the atmosphere is safe, he opens his faceplate, passes out, and immediately shrinks. He's taken prisoner by the tiny people who, they have to figure, brought along some clothes for him to wear, since I doubt his NASA long johns would fit him anymore. He's then brought before the leader of the little people, Sesame. Odd name, yes? I will explain that in just a minute. There's a trial, and a jury of women condemn him to be a free citizen of Retton. Ouch. The Phantom Planet is one of those films that really means well, but doesn't exactly pull off what it intends to pull off. If the road to hell is paved with good intentions, this movie makes up a few miles of it, and there are a ton of potholes. As an example, if you're going to write a science fiction movie, or any movie for that matter, you should have, at the very least, a general knowledge of your subject matter. If you're going to write a movie about, say, engineering, a working background knowledge of engineering would be necessary. Not to make it interesting. I mean, I don't think it would be possible to make a movie about engineering interesting unless your audience is full of engineers. But just to make it somewhat believable without resorting to nonsensical dialogue. Some filmmakers seriously underestimate the intelligence of the audience when it comes to stuff like this. They figure if they put in enough gobbledygook, they can float just about any load of trash past the viewers without them smelling it. Not so. Most of the people I know are discerning enough to recognize a load of manure for what it is pretty easily. The maxim "story is king" is a maxim for a reason. There's just a ton of dialogue in this movie that makes absolutely no sense, and it's not like you have to think about it for it not to make sense. There's the science fiction-y stuff, like when Frank is amazed that the little people, the Rettons, speak English. Sesame smiles and explains, "We do not speak it. But here on Retton, we are able to translate all languages through tone waves." Honestly, That's about as good an explanation as Addicto Robitaire was in Plan 9 from Outer Space. A bit later, Frank asks Liara, Sissim's daughter or niece or whatever the hell she is, about their relative sizes, and she answers, "Our atmosphere, together with some acceleration from our gravitational control, has reduced you to normal for us. Oxygen in your atmosphere would restore you immediately to your regular size." So what the hell are they breathing? Another thing that bothers me here, why are the little people little? Their size has nothing to do with the story, with the plot, or anything else. And by that chain of thought, the Solarites, the sworn enemies of the Retans, aren't much bigger, so why doesn't Frank get back in his suit and just step on them? Anyway, the moon base sends an expedition out to find Frank and the late Ray. We see all the preparations they make and see them find the ship, and then we go back to Retin. Frank has evidently become a useful member of society, although he doesn't care for Liara's constant pawing. He finds himself attracted to the mute Zitha. While I can definitely see the advantage of having a girlfriend who can't talk. Come on, guys, am I right? Even if she could, I'd go for Zitha over Liara. First of all, Liara is spoiled and grabby, while Zitha is meek and polite. And Zitha is just hotter than Liara. Brunettes. Anyway, after Heron, Liara's ex, sees Frank throw her over for Zitha, he gets all hot under the collar, seeing this as an insult to Liara and, oddly, to himself, so he challenges Frank to the dreaded Duel of Reetin. This consists of something like sumo wrestling, only combatants are holding an H-shaped bar, and instead of trying to push each other out of a circle, they try to push the other into a plate on the floor, which, according to the Retans, has an extremely high gravity and makes things put on it dissolve. They push each other around a bit, and Frank, being civilized, spares Heron's life. As much as I dislike this film, there is one really memorable shot at it. It's when the Solarite is screwing around with the gravity screen, and when it begins beeping, said Solarite turns and gives the camera a look that Bill Warren compares to a take by the Masked Apes in Ernie Kovac's Nairobi Trio. I don't want to spoil the movie for all of you, so I'll just shut up and let you see it if you choose to stick around. Let's move on to the bios. Colleen Gray was born Doris Bernice Jensen October 23, 1922 in Staplehurst, Nebraska. After she earned a Bachelor of Arts in Drama at Hamline University, Gray decided to see the nation and traveled to California, settling in L.A. and enrolling in a drama school. A talent scout from 20th Century Fox got her a screen test, and afterwards she was signed to a contract where she appeared in a lot of movies like this one, unfortunately. Anthony Dexter was born Walter Reinhold Alfred Fleischman on January 13, 1913 in Talmadge, Nebraska. He grew up on a farm in that town and played high school football so well that he was awarded a scholarship to St. Olaf's College in Minnesota. He joined the school choir and then entered the University of Iowa, earning a Master of Arts in Speech and Drama. During World War II, Dexter toured England and other parts of Europe, performing in the stage show Claudia. After the war, he appeared on Broadway and starred in a number of movies, including the one he's best remembered for, 1951's biopic Valentino. According to rumor, he won the role from a field of 75,000 actors. His resemblance to Rudolph Valentino is amazing, and director George Medford, who directed the real Valentino in 1921's The Sheik, called him, quote, incredible. The same eyes, ears, mouth, the same grace in dancing. The film didn't do well at the box office, however, and while Dexter enjoyed a brief movie career, he decided to retire and spend his time teaching speech and drama classes at Eagle Rock High School in California. Anthony Dexter died on August 23, 1966 in Pacific Palisades, California. Francis Xavier Bushman was born on January 10, 1883 in Baltimore, Maryland. He was discovered after winning a Most Handsome Man contest in 1911. Bushman was an incredibly popular actor known for both his heroic physique and classical profile. He earned as much as $1 million a year and earned it. In 1914 alone, he was in 22 films. His popularity began to fade in 1918, however, and his appearance as Masala in 1926's Ben-Hur was a major comeback, but it didn't stick. Although he played mostly leading men throughout his career, Bushman only stood 5'11" and had to emote on an apple box when appearing with taller actors. What he lacked in height, he made up for in muscle. While filming in Wisconsin in 1911, a local lumberjack challenged him to a wrestling match. Bushman took him up on the challenge and after an hour-long bout, won. He was often seen tooling around Hollywood in a Marmon limo, which had his name embossed on the sides, in the company of 5 Great Danes. He must have really loved that breed of dog because, according to stories I've heard, he had 300 of them living on his 280-acre estate in Maryland. I can only imagine what it was like keeping that place clean. His first wife, Beverly Bain, was his on-screen partner as well, but the studios kept the fact that he was married a closely guarded secret to maintain his appeal to women in the audience. He estimated that during his career he received over 17,000 marriage proposals from female fans. When it became known that he was married with 5 children, his popularity took a major hit. His considerable fortune was wiped out in the crash of Wall Street in 1929. He ended up working a lot in radio and occasionally appeared in films such as 1944's Wilson, 1954's Sabrina, and played Moses in 1957's disastrous The Story of Mankind, directed by Irwin Allen. The name of the character he plays in tonight's film, Sesame, is Moses, cleverly spelled backwards, which is about the cleverest thing in this movie. Francis X. Bushman died of a heart attack on August 23, 1966 in Pacific Palisades, California. Incidentally, the Solarite in this film is played by none other than Richard Kiel, who is best known for his performance as Jaws in the Roger Moore James Bond films. The Phantom Planet isn't a good movie. It tries to be, but it just misses the mark. Actually, it doesn't just miss the mark, it misses the mark by a country mile. There's something endearing about it, though. It tries so hard to be good, and it's just so earnest that you feel as if you should just cuddle it like a puppy. Of course, while you're cuddling it, it pees on your lap. And unlike a puppy, it's still to the point of being excruciating. As the review in Castle of Frankenstein number 22 stated, The Phantom Planet is, and I quote, an atrocious space opera, as deadly and illiterate a pick as you've ever seen. I'm sure I could add to that, but I think that sums up this movie pretty well. So right now, sit back, relax, and enjoy The Phantom Planet, right here on Cleveland Classics Cinema.